you imagine experiencing your life as easy and peaceful most of the time, even when things around you seem to be in chaos? It truly is a possibility. That is the gift of living with soul and ego in harmony, living in self-awareness without judgment. Get ready to listen, share, and experience the magic that is energy medicine. Now, here is the host of Soul Healing with Traci Trimble, Doctor of Energy Medicine, Traci Trimble.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Traci, and I'm a doctor of energy medicine. As a bioenergetic therapist, a spiritual guide, and an energy worker, I specialize in treating both the cause and the effects of depression, anxiety, acute stress, and chronic pain from the perspective of the human bioenergetic field. My passion is teaching energy medicine, such as Reiki, chakra balancing, and Hatha yoga. And my gift is to see through the layers of energy that surround our physical bodies, called the bioenergetic field. My superpower is the ability, with your permission, to connect directly to the voice of your soul energy, whether it's whispering or crying out. I, for some reason, have the capacity to hear that. Then, as a trained talk therapist, I have the joy of speaking with your ego. It's my job to guide and to teach you how to bring your soul and ego back into harmony. And that's exactly what this session is all about each week, bringing soul and ego back into harmony. Today, we're going to be discussing personal development, the difference between consuming and nurturing. I hear so often about how much work my clients have done on themselves, for themselves, with their friends and families. But often things don't seem to change, or at least they don't seem to change for long. We fall back into what we've labeled old habits and beliefs. The challenge is the difference between consuming and nurturing. It's because we're not doing our spiritual work honestly. We're getting distracted by all kinds of outside influences, but also inside influences, like beliefs, habits. We're distracted by consuming content to satisfy a craving or a need for results, rather than consuming and digesting for the purposefulness of nurturing our body, our mind, and our soul. This week in our show, we're going to take consume versus nurture to task. But let's start with personal development in general. We may all have different definitions of what personal development means. So let me share specifically what I'm talking about today. Personal development is when we, with intention and awareness, do, be, or have something with the purposefulness of bettering ourselves, of feeling better, of looking better, of being more aware, of understanding or seeing the world around us and ourselves more clearly. I believe that personal development is essential. I also believe it's the main reason that we came to this space and time called human being. If you've listened to any of my other shows, you may have caught on that I have a belief that we all come to this space and time called human being for a reason. And that very specific reason is contractual in nature. We sign an agreement as a spiritual being that we're going to come to this space and time and have a human experience. And I believe that experience has purposefulness. It has beneficial energies and non-beneficial energies. I think the reason that we agreed to and decided to become human is to become an expert in self, in this human body with soul and ego in harmony. So if the purposefulness of personal development is to be an expert at self, don't you think we should be paying attention, researching, studying, and experiencing our lives to the fullest to knowing the difference between the thoughts, the words, the actions and inactions that cause us harm, and the difference between those that bring us joy and happiness. That's what I think personal development is knowing who we want to be and finding resources either within us or outside of us that bring us closer and closer and closer to being exactly who we're meant to be. The challenge is that many times personal development is a way in which we have the capacity to bypass doing our work. We think just going to a workshop or just reading a book, or in some cases just buying a book, is going to gift us a relief from our pain and our suffering. But it doesn't work that way. And I think that's especially true when we just consume, when we just eat up everything that we think is going to fix or solve our challenges. What if there is nothing wrong with us? What if the only reason that we are needing healing is because we're off course? So even instead of saying healing, it's literally an adjustment. It's a shift or a transformation. In personal development, the purposefulness is to transform out of a painful situation into a situation of awareness where we are indeed the expert of ourselves. I think personal development is about self-knowledge, creating an identity, establishing what our talents are, to clearly understand and know our strengths and weaknesses, to have aspirations and dreams, to understand our potential so that we are creating and therefore giving ourselves a belief that we are in control of our quality of life. So why is it then, when we spend so much time and money consuming personal development offerings from the outside world, that they only seem to work for short periods of time? Well, I'd like to explain that in my 3-day theory. I believe that absolutely everything, whether it's energetic-based or not, anything that brings self-awareness to us, stays with us for approximately 3 days without any required effort. But that also means beneficial and non-beneficial energy works the same way. So, for example, I read a book today, right now, in this moment, and I have an aha moment. It touches me, it reaches my cellular memory, or it triggers something in my bioenergetic field. Whether that's beneficial or non-beneficial at this moment, it's irrelevant. That energy has been fed or fueled. And it sits outside of my bioenergetic field to see if I'm going to do anything with it. Within the first 24 hours, it seeps into my bioenergetic field. It becomes a part of who I am. And the cool thing is, if it's beneficial energy, is it begins to attract other light energy because it believes that it's going to be fed or fueled. I still don't need to do anything with that energy, which is pretty cool if it's beneficial energy. Because now, by the 3rd day, it goes into my cellular memory, and it goes into my evidence bank. If it's beneficial, it goes into the evidence bank that says, this is good for you, we need more of this, let's attract this and fuel ourselves with it. However, if it's non-beneficial, it's going to go into the non-beneficial bank. It's still going to say, this is awesome, we want more of this, fuel me with it. So if after 2 or 3 days, the effects of whatever healing treatment, book, class, or workshop begins to wear off, it's because you've done no work. You've simply consumed the information. You've brought the energy into your bioenergetic field, but you've done nothing with it. And that's the difference between consuming. Reading through a book and highlighting it or making little notes is great, but if you don't do anything with those notes that perpetuate that energy, that continue to feed it, then it really only has a 3-day life cycle within your awareness and your attention span. Except that it's attracting other like energies. So you have the capacity to become aware of the coincidences or the serendipity or the, wow, did that just happen moments? Because as you consume them, it continues to fuel that energy. It continues to create evidence that it's a belief. It continues to build habit. We need to consistently and proactively be consciously aware of what we're feeding our subconscious with. Is it beneficial energy that we attract more of and continue to consume, or is it non-beneficial energy? But today we're talking about personal development. So let's assume that this is beneficial energy or information. We have to create within our lifestyle a practice of fueling ourselves with this beneficial energy for it to take hold. Each piece of evidence or aha moment or something of value is simply the size of a grain of sand. But you have 10 of those and it's a pebble. You have 1,000 of those and it's a marble. You have 100,000 of those and it's a boulder. Each piece feeds on to one another to become something more. And that's called our experiences. So in order to be an expert of self, we must first pay attention to what we're fueling our mind, our body, and our soul with. We are required to research, to search not only within through meditation, yoga, energy medicine, but also from the outside, books, movies, workshops, and courses. That's the research. But then there's the study. What did that information trigger within us or fuel within us that inspired us to research more? But that piece of research is now exactly what we're meant to study, to learn how we heal, share, grow, prosper. It teaches us how we want to experience. And when we have the capacity or the self-awareness to choose how we want to experience, guess what? That's exactly what we're experiencing. If I think that this moment is fun and exciting, guess what? It's fun and exciting. If I decide that this is boring and annoying, guess what? It's boring and annoying. So if I'm triggered by something that inspires me and I want more of that, I have to invite more of that into my life. I have to pay attention. I have to do the research. I have to study my own self and then experience so that I know who I want to be, so that I know what I do and don't want to create in my life. It's time for the first break of the show. When we return, we're going to talk very specifically about the difference between consuming, and nurturing when it comes to personal development. You're listening to Soul Healing with Traci Trimble. When we return, we're going to be going back to consume versus nurture. We'll be right back.
Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Traci, and you're listening to Soul Healing. The entire purpose of this show for me, these sessions for me, is to create awareness, to educate you, to empower yourself to evolve not only as an individual, but as three very powerful energies combined as one. A strong, empowered physical body, a connected and created and empowered mind, and a connected and creative, empowered soul. And I believe that's what personal development is gifting us. The personal development industry in North America is a multi-billion-dollar industry. I myself have based my career around my own personal development so that I'm always learning, sharing, healing, and growing, and I'm always being paid to do it so that I can be on purpose and passionate all the time. My goal is to nurture my body, my mind, and my spirit, not to overload or overburden it with content. I've watched many a client absolutely, totally consume everything that gets in front of them. And that's what happens at the beginning of this spiritual awareness journey as a human being, is that everything that gets presented to us is seen as an opportunity. But it gets very overwhelming. It's called consumption. And as a society, we do it through many different and ways. But let me use this analogy. Someone lovingly prepares a beautiful 5-course meal, and you agree to come to this dinner party. You know that you have all the time in the world, but it's dinner and you're hungry, you haven't had anything to eat all day, and you sit down at that table and you start literally shoveling food in your mouth. You don't take the time to taste it. You don't take the time to appreciate that someone's made it for you. You literally scoff it down. At the end of that meal, you start thinking things like, that was a great night. I had a really good time. Good food. You're glad you got to spend that time with those friends or family. But then a little while later, you start to not feel so good. Your tummy hurts. You've consumed that experience. You haven't actually experienced it. You haven't allowed yourself to be nurtured through it. The ideal situation would have been spending some time listening to your friends, giving them the chance to hear you, to sit down at that 5-course meal over a long period of time and to taste, smell, touch the food, to listen to your friends laughing, to see them, to see you. Who are you in that interaction? At the end of the night, you feel good about it and you want to do it again. And even a few hours later, days later, you're so grateful for that experience. That's the difference between consuming and nurturing. When we consume, we have a plan, we set some goals, we create some actions, and we go at it until we just don't feel like going at it anymore. Something else comes along that catches our attention. Squirrel. When we nurture ourselves through something, we have an intention. Not only do we know what we want out of it, but we're consciously aware of the signs. We're consciously aware of the symbols, of the things that get our awareness, the aha moments. And in that moment, we recognize and learn something. It catches our attention. For me, in a book, I used to highlight and never go back to that book again. Now, I highlight. I write a little note in my journal and leave the rest of the page blank. And then I write that quote out on a sticky note, and I give it a title. I have a journal book of 100 pages, and at the top of each 100 pages is a title: love, peacefulness, self-awareness, patience, kindness, all of the things that I'm interested in being. And that sticky note, whatever its relevance was, whatever that quote was about, I stick it on that page. So anytime I need to nurture myself in any of those areas, passion, peaceful, purposeful, patient, kind, compassionate, in service, I simply go back to that journal that has either one or thousands of sticky notes on that very specific topic. I don't get distracted by the rest of the book. I'm reading that book for making me a better person. Not a better person for outside others, a better person for myself. How do I know I'm doing that? Because I know who I want to be. Those things I just listed off moments ago, those are things that I am consciously aware of being, doing, and having every minute of every day. Because I know that I get distracted so easily. I know that anger, disillusionment, and blame take me out of alignment. I know that passion, purposefulness, and balance bring me in alignment. And I know who I want to be: kind, compassionate, in service, productive. So if I know that, everything I engage in is personal development. I spend time with people who show me those things, who teach me those things, who allow me to be those things at whatever place I'm in. I'm being nurtured by them, and they're nurturing me. But I'm also learning. I'm sharing. I'm healing, and I'm growing. When I say healing, I mean I'm seeing things that cause me harm. I'm forgiving myself and others, and I'm letting them go. When I say growing, it means I have aha moments, and I hold on to them. I have an aha moment, and that becomes a new level of research. Oh, books, workshops, courses, events, even conversations with people. I remember one time, I think it was May. I remember in May or June, our book club was a book by Brené Brown. I love listening to her, but in the past, I found it very challenging to read her work. She didn't speak my language. And when her book, Into the Wilderness, became our club book, I was like, oh, I don't do this well. But I wanted to be part of the conversation with my friends. I wanted to learn, to share, to heal, and grow. So I set the intention that I was going to read this book, not from the perspective from which she was writing it, but from the perspective in which I needed to hear it. At that moment, I was having a conflict. That's not true. I was having an ongoing life non-relationship with someone in my family. And I was also working on my second PhD. And from her book, I was able to gift myself forgiveness for this relationship that had seemed to fail. I gift forgiveness to my family member who I had blamed for not being engaged in that relationship. And I found information from an unexpected space for my PhD studies. When we met with book club and everyone was talking about the book, they literally were talking about the words and the examples that Brene wrote about. And I was not. I was able to eloquently speak of what she said and how it related to my life and changed something for me. I didn't read her book. I nurtured myself through it. I did not consume her words and take them on as my own. I nurtured myself through what she was saying and her examples and made it part of my experience. I paid attention to what she was saying. I used her words as research for who I wanted to be. I studied myself and my current situation, and I experienced her book. And from that, I grew. That's the most powerful part of any education that we can receive, whether we're receiving it from within or whether we're receiving it from influential others. It's time for our second break of the show. When we return, I want to talk to you about the questions to ask yourself or others to shift yourself out of consuming and into nurturing when it comes to personal development. You're listening to Soul Healing with Traci Trimble. We'll be right back.
Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Traci, and you're listening to Soul Healing with Traci Trimble. Thank you so much for being with me today. It gives me great joy to share all that I learn, to be able to speak to you through this platform, to educate, empower, and support you in your own evolution. Before we went to break, I had said something to the effect of the most powerful part of any education is growth. And I believe that's true. But the most empowering part of any form of education is awareness of our growth. And that's essentially what I'm asking for from you today. I'm asking for you to gift yourself permission to be aware of all of the educational opportunities that are presented to you, whether they're through people that you're interacting with, whether it's a book that you read or a course that you've taken, whether it's through a guided meditation, a pendulum session, or a card reading. There are so many ways in which we can nurture ourselves to learn, share, heal, grow, and prosper that are so much more powerful than just consuming a vision, a goal, a plan, or actions. Personal development, most specifically in a nurturing way, is all about the questions that we ask to ourselves. First and foremost, the question of what is my intention is probably the most empowering question ever. What's my intention for reading this book, for taking this course, for spending time with these particular people. Now, when you're just beginning this spiritual journey, the purposefulness of your intention is always to figure out who do you want to be. But as you progress out of your unconscious incompetence into conscious competence, the intention is always to continue to find ways in which to be better, to be the things that you say that you want to be. Good questions include, does doing or learning this develop who I want to be? It's extremely important that we're asking what questions and does this question. And let me explain to you why what and does this is so important. Because habitually as human beings, very often unconsciously incompetent in learning moments, it's important to avoid asking why and how. When we ask why, it has the capacity for us, especially for ego, to go into all of the old evidence. Why is this happening again? Why do I do things like that? Why is this always happening to me? Why can't I get this? The question why, although it is not a non-beneficial question and it itself does not hold negative energy, within our ego vault of non-beneficial energy, why is how most of that evidence and information was accumulated. The other question to avoid is how. When we ask the question how, our human nature says you have to take action. You have to have a goal and a vision. Sometimes no action is the best action of all. That's why yoga, meditation, Reiki, those things all are inactive. They are self-evolving. They don't include influential outside others, or they're not meant to. When we consume personal development, it's usually in larger groups. It's usually with a why or a how attached to it. When we nurture, it's intimate groups of like-minded people asking what or does this. These empowering questions give you the capacity to find tools and resources that suit you. So let's talk about tools and resources for just a moment. Most people's automatic reaction of a tool and resource for personal development is to go out to our influential others. And I think that's a beautiful thing, considering I generate my living doing exactly that. So books, courses, classes, and events, opportunities to hang out with like-minded people, those things all require active outside participation, which can be a beautiful thing. One of my most favorite books that I recommend for personal development, any level of personal development, is called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. The Code of the Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhiani. He is the founder of something called mindvalley.org. Mind Valley is a most incredible personal development educational portal. Its personal development is unlimited. They range through all the 12 most important areas of life. So physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, your character, your intimate relationships, parent-child relationships, social relationships, career and finances, quality of life, having a vision. Their programming covers all of that. you could literally spend hundreds of years going through their content. But why I love Mind Valley is that reason. But why I love Vishen's book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, is because whether you're already aware of who you want to be or not, it is like reprogramming the brain to gift us the awareness of what our old habits and beliefs have created. And it also somehow gives us permission energetically to go out and find who we want to be. It has a wealth of knowledge, and I think it speaks to multiple different types of people. So, for example, when I had said that in the past Brene Brown's work didn't speak to me, she didn't speak my language per se. She was more research dominated, as opposed to what I felt was education dominated. But I think in Vishen's book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, he speaks to so many different levels of comprehension that it empowers everyone. I also think that anything that is going to be educational is going to be based on one thing: your intention. What are you there to learn? And what is it doing to help you comprehend, to become who you want to be? If you are interested in more of a metaphysical type of healing, I love using the pendulum, oracle cards, and meditation. I use my journal to go within. I'll take a few moments to ask my oracle cards, what do I need to know right now? I'll shuffle those cards until something flies out, and then I'll write that message down in a journal. I'll go into a deep meditation, so just me, no guidance, no music, just my own self. And when I come out of that meditation, I don't write down what I experienced, thought, felt, or was in. I allow myself to create the message of whatever it was that I needed in that moment. This may not work for everyone, but it's an empowering way to find out exactly what you need to do to be who you say you want to be, or even better, to find out who it is that you want to be. So tools and resources for personal development come from everywhere, within you and around you. But what's most important when we go into personal development is that we're nurturing ourselves, not consuming the content. It's the only way that whatever it is that you learned in that moment has impact in your life. We nurture ourselves, once again, by paying attention to the coincidences, to the serendipities, to the aha moments. We take those moments or those little pieces of information and we research what they mean to us, how they make us feel, why they were so important. Did they trigger us in a beneficial or a non-beneficial way? And then we study who we are, what they were gifting us in the moment. We become the expert of ourselves. And this becomes our experience, our self-knowledge, our identity, knowing our talents, our strengths and weaknesses, having aspirations and dreams, really, truly believing in the unlimited potential within us, with the capacity to creating the quality of life in which we want, which we expect, and in which we deserve. The most empowering and powerful part of any education is growth. Growth creates self-awareness, and self-awareness is what gives us peaceful ease and happiness. It's time for our third and final break of today's show. Our topic today is personal development, the difference between consuming and nurturing. My name is Traci Trimble, and you're listening to Soul Healing. We'll be right back.
Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Soul Healing. As I've said many times before, the purposefulness of this 50 minutes is to inspire you, to empower you to educate yourself to evolve. If only one thing stuck with you today, that's all you needed. Your purpose in listening to this podcast or to any other source of education is simply to find one single nugget that is relevant to who you want to be. That's what we're doing. When we have the capacity to be consciously competent, we're literally looking outside around us. We're looking inside within us for those moments, for those opportunities for education. Because when we learn, we share. We share ourselves, our ideas. When we do that, we heal ourselves of the non-beneficial beliefs and habits that have caused harm and suffering. We give ourselves permission to fall crazy in love with ourselves, to forgive ourselves and others for anything that may once have been known as a wrongdoing. Because, guys, everything, good, bad, beautiful, and ugly, happens for a reason. To educate, to empower, and to evolve. There is no coincidence in the fact that the same things keep happening in different ways, whether they're awesome or whether they suck. Because that's what you're fueling yourself with. You are educating yourself with. If you are consuming, you're generating non-beneficial energy and it's attracting more. If you're nurturing, you're generating beneficial energy and it's bringing more and more to you. So my ask for you today is to take one nugget, even if it's a singular word, an idea or a concept from today, and go through the process of nurturing. Pay attention to the coincidences of it coming up again and again and again throughout your day. Give yourself permission to research it for you from your point of view, whether it's through meditation, journaling, energy medicine, or books, courses, workshops. It doesn't matter. As long as you're doing the research, you're studying and becoming the expert of your own. That's all the time that we have for today. As always, I am incredibly grateful to have spent this time with you. I trust that you got exactly what you needed from me today, and if for any reason at all, you don't feel like you did, please send your questions, concerns, or ideas to me by email at traci@tracitrimble.ca. If you're curious about what I do or how I can personally guide and mentor you, please check out my website at tracitrimble.ca. Next week, we're going to be discussing a poem made famous by Marianne Williamson. It's called Reason, Season, and Lifetime. And it ties into all of the other shows that I've created for your education purpose, because it talks about all of the coincidences and the ahas and those moments as being for a reason. Everything happens for either a reason, a season, or a lifetime. People, places, things, they play out for one purpose, to move us to the next level of our human experience. Join me as I dissect this poem, as it carries a powerful message to anyone stuck in anger, blame, guilt, or grief. Until next time, gift yourself permission to find self-awareness without judgment. Be soul and ego in harmony. This is Traci Trimble, Doctor of Energy Medicine, signing off with gratitude. Thank you so very much, and have a great day.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Soul Healing with Traci Trimble, PhD. We hope you'll join us. Until then, give yourself permission to learn, share, heal, and grow through self-awareness without judgment.